All right, positive energy all the time. Let's get it. So I'm going to talk about tethers, okay? I really uh, haven't been engaging with that, uh, but I have been getting some trolling uh, from people that I suspect are black immigrants or blacks from other places. I do be suspect that some of the brothers that I don't know that just come and just start stuff. But I'm gonna try to talk about this right down the middle. I was talking about it at the end of the last video. I said let me give a whole title to it and break down how I look at the situation honestly, without any prejudice or any hate. It's the, the word tether is not a word I use. I haven't really been calling black immigrants tethers, but I do recognize the definition how it's used is it's definitely a real thing. It's not a fake thing. I just don't do I just don't do the type of content where it comes up that much. But I am going to go out my way and talk about it tonight. I'm going to break down how I look at it. So you all come on in, hit the like button, share, subscribe. And we're going to talk about the word tethers. Tethers, tethers, tethers. Now, this is a tether you can latch on to something and I do feel like foundational black Americans have been serious victims to tethering. I do believe that. I definitely believe that. I think that a lot of black immigrants that came to the United States, I believe they came because of our success. But I can't say that they show honor over it. I can't really say that. So when you're successful as a people and you come up from under this slavery and stuff we came under, and then blacks come because you're doing well, but don't really deal with you, um, how are we supposed to take that? That would be the question. How are we supposed to take it uh, when you come and you don't pay no homage? Now, I can't say that black immigrants understand that. They wouldn't understand that like we would understand that because we were the ones that fought and many were unalive in jail and brutalized to be able to ride the bus, to be able to ride the train. Back in the day with my foreparents, in some cases, if a black man was walking down the sidewalk and a white man was walking down the sidewalk, the black man would have to go step out in the mud in the streets till he passed. So it does put a bad taste in your mouth to fight all these fights we fought and then have people come and do well from our fight and not really acknowledge our fight for their freedom to walk around. I do think I do think in many ways blacks from the Caribbean and blacks from Africa, they filed for that. I do believe that. And pick up a history book or go watch a documentary or something, but it's a lot of people got hurt for you to come here if you black and walk around. You know? Imagine me going to South Africa and going to the beach swimming and not really respecting Winnie Mandela and Nelson to fight for me to go to the beach. How would that look? Because they couldn't go to the beaches. So imagine somebody fighting for some rights and you come and enjoy the rights and ignore the people that created the rights for you. That's a problem. That's always been my biggest complaint about black immigration is the lack of respect for black Americans that made it possible. You know, when my mother was the little girl, she couldn't sit down anywhere on the bus. She used to have to hold my uncle and hold on with one hand and make sure that my uncle don't bump into a white person because they might hurt him. And so our family went through a lot to even be able to go in a store or walk down the street. So of course, if you were a black immigrant and you came and you walking down the street and you going in stores and you going to do all this stuff that the black people before you made it possible and you don't really act like you honor that, yeah, that's going to put a bad taste in everybody's mouth. For sure. So I want to talk about it fair down the middle. I don't want to have a whole bunch of prejudice and stuff. I just want to talk about it right down the middle. You know, MLK and Malcolm and them, they went through a lot for us to be free. For foundational black Americans, we had a lot of people put everything on the line for us. And we know it. But then to have people come here, other black people, and live off of the freedoms that we sacrifice for with no respect to us, that's not, that's not good. Now, we live in a world where some people will be in Africa doing the Africans bad, and then I come over there and then put me over the Africans. It's just the world we live in. It's up to me to refuse that position. But in many cases, if people were to come here and be put up over us, a lot of these black immigrants would do it. They would step on us if they could. They would step on us. So my first real time being around a bunch of black immigrants was, when I grew my dreads and started playing reggae, I was hanging around a bunch of Rastas from Jamaica. And they said they was Africans, right? They got the red, gold, and green flag, Ethiopia, Haile Selassie, all that. But they could never stop being Jamaicans. Only very few. And Jamaica is full of tribal war. Full of it. Full of it. So I did a good job avoiding the hate, not letting the hate make me a hater. But I definitely endured a lot of hate within the Rasta culture from brothers and sisters that was talking about Africa and unity. There was phony, a lot of them. I just didn't have a lot of problems because I was standing on business. If I would have been sweet, I would have got all kind of problems. I first heard the term tether from Twitter, which is now X, from Tariq Nasheed. He's the first person that I heard use the term tether. I could have got it from Claude Anderson or anybody, but I know he's the one that made it popular. I know that. Y'all come on in, rep your city, rep your city. So I never really pushed it like that, but I did listen close to Tyreek breaking it down. And he was always talking about, well, he was not always, but he was talking about the politics, how the American government would use that against us. So it wasn't like the black immigrants were the problem. It was like white America was using black immigrants against us, putting them in position of power, and then them not really being connected to us. So then we get very little because there's no connection. So I'm gonna go back all my childhood and stuff. I was never around no immigrants in Chicago because it wasn't in the early '60s. The only immigrants was white immigrants, like Polish, Germans that still spoke German, still spoke Polish, and I was working on a language. They used to really have to have English classes so they could learn how to talk. Now in Chicago, when I grew up in a black neighborhood, so there was no immigrants. So I ain't have no uh, relationship with no black immigrants from kindergarten on through. I ain't had no situation with no black immigrants. Chicago's extremely black, extremely black. So I didn't have no experience with any type of situation with any type of immigrants. I worked with at a book factory with some Africans. They was cool. They wasn't funny acting. So I'm trying to go back as far as I can before I build up to Tyreek and build up to now. So when I was growing up, most of the problems was few. I lived in a black neighborhood, but when you go back by around the school, some whites. So my first problems with another race was white. Another group of young white boys, you know, they be trying to terrorize me or something like that to see if I'm scared. They had a store called Community on 119th, and I would go up there, and sometimes they lived on the other side behind their whites. But they didn't really intimidate me like that. But sometimes a bunch of us would chase us when on our bike. On our bike, at three of us, we wide pass, and it'd be like 20 of them chasing us, throwing rocks, stuff like that. That didn't happen too much, though. So I went around a lot of black immigrants. I was around whites when I went to Lutheran school. That was from, there's Americans, but maybe their granddaddy from Poland or something like that. So I ain't have a whole lot of problems like that. Chicago's a really black city, black and white. We got some Puerto Ricans. They stay off where they live at. So it's pretty much black most of the time in Chicago when you're taking the buses and stuff because the whole South Side was basically black. Now I think there was Chinese owned like certain stores. It'd be like a strip. This is back in the '60s. They used to sell them wigs, all them Afro wigs, be in the window, red, rainbow color wigs, and hair and stuff. So the Asians always sold the sisters' hair, but mostly afros to put on. It was really more like a costume than anything, because sisters did their own hair back in the 60s and the 70s, and their own nails. You know what I'm saying? Good to see you, Lady Lioness. So I didn't have a lot of problems with other blacks because there was no blacks around. Chicago was extremely FBA, beyond what most people could comprehend. Well, the whole south side of Chicago, all the way downtown, is foundation of Black Americans. So I wasn't having a lot of interaction with Black immigrants. Most of my interaction was with whites, racism and stuff in the 60s, mostly. Mexicans lived in their own neighborhood. We lived in ours, so we didn't cross paths like that. So I didn't really have to worry about, different people from different countries, immigrants like that. Because Chicago's just extremely, extremely black to the core. So my first experience with immigrants, interesting. And most people may not realize that, but Newark is a very small city. It's pretty divided. Mostly black, most Hispanic live North Ward. Blacks take up East and Central Wards. Whites in the South. Interesting. So I mostly just dealt with racism, whites mostly. I didn't really have no experience with Black immigrants until I got out of high school and started working at the book factory. And there was Africans working at the book factory. I was 18. There was two of them there, and one his name was Ben. I think he was from either Senegal, one of them countries over around Senegal. Around Ghana, one of them. And he was nice. I think he liked my auntie. She said she didn't encounter him till the late 90s, yeah. So my first real encounters with Black immigrants was when I started dreading my hair in 1978, when I turned 20. When I turned 20, I ended up playing in a reggae band called Nyakoma. Now, my experience with prejudice and stuff as far as between groups was they was always dealing with it. There was always Black American kids tease them about the way they talk and all that. But I didn't go to school with them, so they just would tell me about it. You know what I'm saying? They would just tell me about how they tease them, call them banana boat, all that. And that was when I was 20. So I was 20 and I was around some Jamaicans and they was kind of like family. And I'm hanging around a bunch of Rastas, and then that's when I met some Trinidadian brothers. I met some Trinidadian brothers. I stayed on the far south side of Chicago. They stayed out in Harvey, so they was close. I would go out there where they was at. Stay like 2 days. Much love from my brother. I hope you're all right. So that was the first time I really started being around some black immigrants besides the Africans that worked at the factory when I was 18. So now I'm 20. I'm around some Jamaican brethren. And I'm around some Trinidadian brethren. And I'm meeting some Africans, but not to the point where there was no type of problem or nothing like that. I wasn't around them enough to know if they was hating or not. So the first real time I really realized the different blacks had a problem, it wasn't with the Jamaicans, because at that time, in the late 70s, when Jamaicans were trying to put a reggae band together, they didn't have enough Jamaicans to put the band together. So if you could play bass guitar or something, cool. Straight up. And the first time I seen some differences between the people like that, I went to a reggae show with the Jamaicans, and the Trinidadians was there. And the Trinidadians asked me why I'm with the Jamaicans, which was weird to me. That was absolutely weird. I ain't lying. They said what I'm doing with the Jamaicans now. We was all Rastas. I'm a black American Rasta. I go to the club with the Trinidadian Rastas. And when we get there, the Jamaican Rastas is there. The music is, everybody black. No matter where you come from, as long as you're a black man, you're African. That's the music. If you come from Jamaica, you is African. If you come from Trinidad, you is African. If you come from Chicago, Illinois, you were African. You know that. No matter where you came from, you're African. So when I see the Trinidadians ask me the Jamaicans ask me, what the hell am I doing around the Trinidadians? That was the first time I'm thinking, what? What? So that tell you right there, if the Jamaicans, some Jamaican Rastas was questioning me being around the Trinidadian Rastas, what that say about what they think about black Americans? Because they live right, Trinidad and Jamaica live closer and act more like them ones to be on the phone or be in the car or be at band practice with me. And they ain't like each other. So, the Trinidadians was cool, but the Jamaicans didn't like the Trinidadians. Why? I still don't know. I still don't know why the Jamaicans didn't like the Trinidadians. But we was all supposed to be Rasta, and we was talking about Rasta, and we was talking about one love, and going back to Africa and all that. So I didn't understand that. Now I began to know that the African cab drivers don't like picking up foundational Black Americans. Because I had a friend, and he used to have to talk with a Jamaican accent just for the cab drivers to take him home. But I didn't find that out till way later in the story. So when I left Chicago, and I went to LA, it was a little suspicious. Because as more and more Jamaicans started coming, they started acting a little funny. But I wasn't around enough to get any of that. But you can kind of tell by the Jamaicans asking me what I'm doing with the Trinidadians. I thought that was ridiculous. Especially when you say no matter where you come from, as long as you're a Black man, you're African. But then when I come with some other Black man, you ask me what I'm doing with it. That was the first red flag right there. The cab drivers were starting acting funny, but that's way in the 90s. I'm still in the late 70s. I'm still in the 70s, the early 80s. I played the bass in the band in Hawaii. That's like 1980, about 84. But before I got to Hawaii, I went to California first. And I went to California. You could kind of pick up the vibe from some of the Jamaicans. They was haters. You could pick the vibe up. And that's when I started hearing that's when hip hop was growing. When I first got there, yeah, a little bit. When I first got to LA, that's when Big Daddy Kane and LL was beefing. That was the big hip hop beef then. So yeah, hip hop was going. But not big like that till I got back. So it wasn't doing that much. It was like Rapper's Delight, Curtis Blow. It didn't really start really going crazy until I got to Hawaii and came back to LA in like 87. That's when hip hop really took off. Before it was like underground, a little weird. When I got to Hawaii, I couldn't tell no whole bunch of division because when people get far away, they start sticking together. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yep, 87, 88. That's when it really started. When I got back to LA, That was the Cool Modi LL Cool J beef. That's when LA had K-Day Radio, which was on AM and FM at the same time. The big deal with immigration was Mexicans then, and the Mexicans was beginning to show themselves as haters, basically. So it wasn't no lot of Africans around, and the ones that was around, they never lived where we live. So we never ran into them. Here in Chicago, the Africans would live up on the north side. So they wasn't living around us. So you could not tell if there was no animosity. The only animosity that the first foreign animosity that I got from blacks was from Jamaicans. That's a fact. It was the first one. Yeah, Lady Linus. So I didn't get no problems with them. I didn't get no problems with them. When I got back to Chicago, the big beef was, the Africans and the Trinidadians. That was the first big problem I started seeing. And that's what opened up my eyes because I'm like, well, why? What's up with them? How they don't get along? Y'all both from the Caribbean. Who I had the most problems with? I ain't really had no problems because I kind of stayed out the way. Uh, I wasn't in South Central long enough to say the Mexicans, so I didn't really have no problems at that point like that. Because I've never personally had any problems with black immigrants. I never had those problems. So I started to know the Jamaicans was acting funny in the late 80s, pretty much. In the late 80s. But at first I seen that the Trinidadians didn't like the Jamaicans. So I seen that before I even left here. And I always thought, what the hell was that about? How they don't how they don't like the Jamaicans? So that was my first sign that it's funny business. That was my first sign. So they started sampling music from R&B to hip hop and like around that same era. Easy and all them around then. So when I got back to Chicago, the dance hall scene was growing. There was my Trinidadian brethren was here still. They wasn't having no serious problems. But that's when the dance hall started coming in. It became way more evident. But there was beginning to be some funny acting with the Jamaican reggae stars when you get to 87, 88, 89. They was definitely acting funny. You know what I'm saying? But as the dance hall started really growing, it became more evidence because you had rude boys now that ain't necessarily Rastas. The Rastas that was prejudice would hide it. Yeah, the Rastas would hide it. But you could still see little things. But when the dance hall music started popping, now you're around Jamaicans that ain't dealing with roots and culture. So now here we go with the nonsense. And that's what threw everybody off. Everybody got threw off after that. So when it comes to Tethers, LA was mostly Mexicans. Hawaii was Polynesians and stuff. So I didn't really deal with what they were called Tethers until I got back to Chicago. When I got back to Chicago, and you got the Rude Boys, and you got Shaba, and you got all of them, they finna start acting because they not Rastas. The Rastas was prejudiced too, some of them, but they couldn't afford to show it because they had so many songs talking about unity. So they had to just play it off. Yeah, they had to play it off. They had to play it off. So now when I get back and you start getting towards the 90s, now you got a crazy influx of Africans. I'm talking about a whole bunch of Africans. The Africans started to invade the cultural scenes. And that's when I started really experiencing some of the African brothers and sisters around then. And they wasn't hating. For one, they didn't have social media. So ain't no Africans gonna say nothing crazy to you face to face in no Chicago or LA. But my first bad experience was in LA before I left. When I got stabbed and I was in the hospital. And And I had one of my nurses was an African lady. And that lady hated me for no reason. I'm just a patient trying to heal. She was extremely, extremely mean. Extremely. You could tell she did not like Black Americans. I don't know why. I didn't know why. This is way in the late 80s. So this is my first experience with a Black person hating like that. We had Jamaicans that didn't like us, but they would hide it. They would hide it. But this lady, she wouldn't hide nothing. And she was a nurse. I had to actually tell a hospital administration, I don't want her touching me. Because I had mostly Filipino nurses and this African lady. And she was absolutely horrible. That's a fact. Yeah, because they always trying to talk to the women. See, they will sleep with the African men will sleep with the women, but they don't like the men, and they really don't like the women. They just try to sleep with them. They really look down on them. They just want to sleep with them. I'm telling you. So I had that African nurse. That was my first time. Like, what the hell? Man, that lady was mean. She did not like Black Americans. You could tell. I know it wasn't me. She didn't even know me. That was the first time I began to see that like that. At that level. Like I said, the Jamaican reggae artists, some of them was already beginning to act funny. They was funny acting. So that's like the 90s, early 90s. And dance hall is taking over, so it ain't so much rosters at the events. Now, bad boy, rude boy Jamaicans. And then they was not as friendly as the rosters, but they wasn't hating because I was on some gang stuff. I had got stabbed, and when I got well, I wasn't really the person I hate anyway. So I didn't pick up no hate then, although I could probably tell they didn't like. I could tell they didn't like us, but I was so mean and so much in the street. I wish they would. Right? I ever slept with an African woman? Because I only mess with women, I don't mess with girls. No, I got to think about that. Let me think about that. Because I was with a lot of women white, but I can't remember all of them. Let me think. Let's take a break. Let me think. I'll let you know. Let me think. No, not that I can remember. Most of the women I was with was like tourists, Black American women, white women, couple Brazilian women, some women from Spain, stuff like that. I don't remember no African ones. So no, that's when I was in Hawaii. And then I was always in long relationships, so I didn't really sleep with a lot of women except that little period. It's a small period in Hawaii where I ran through a bunch of women, and that's it. I don't really mess with a lot of women like that. I usually be in a relationship. But the African lady, that's the first time I was around an African to tell, oh, they don't like us. But I didn't say they don't like us because I didn't know they didn't like us. I thought it was just her. So I didn't think it was an African thing. So when I get back to Chicago after I got stabbed, now I'm kind of like a, I guess what you would call a hustler slash like gangster type. So I don't know. I didn't really pay attention if they like me or not. I was so mean. I was like, I wish an N word would. So I don't know. But if you think about it, yeah, you could tell they didn't like us. They didn't say nothing, but they was separate. They would talk to the Black American women if they could, but they didn't really mess with the dudes like that. Now, I did a lot of vending, and you could tell that the Africans didn't like us when I was in LA and when I got back to Chicago because the Africans were just not cool at all. Hardly any. I met some cool Africans, but the Africans was just around foundational Black Americans trying to make some money. They'll come to the festivals. They won't speak. They won't smile. They will only smile and speak with you if you walk up to their table and they think you're going to spend some money. And if you don't, after they try to sell you two or three things and you don't buy it, they turn right back mean. So the Africans was just only would smile to sell you stuff. I picked that up early. That was crazy. That was the Tethers. So the Tethers were these Africans that would come to the festivals and attach themselves to the culture only to make some money. They don't like nobody there. They don't like the Jamaicans. They don't like the Black Americans. They don't like the Trinidad. They don't like nobody. No, they just there to invade the cultural events and try to sell their stuff, which was always kind of junky for the most part. They stuff. And that's a tether, somebody that will connect themselves to the culture, connect themselves to the event. Don't like none of the people that just there to like a vampire just to get what they can get. They don't like nobody. No nobody. I couldn't say that about the Jamaicans and Trinidadians and stuff because a lot of them is cool. But it wasn't a whole lot of cool Africans. I met a couple of good Africans, but most of the Africans were not cool. And they ruined the festivals because they started bringing a whole bunch of junk to the festival, trying to see if you just buy it anyway. So that I would say was officially seeing the tethers from the last 2 years I was in LA and then coming to Chicago and see all these Africans come to these black festivals don't like nobody there, and they just there to sell their junk with no respect for the festival, no respect for the customers, no respect for the other vendors. That's when I said, well, these people ain't no good. Because how do you come to a festival and just sit in your chair like this and just be looking at people? And then when they walk up, you try to hop up and smile. And then they'll walk up and they'll try to act like they smile while you're looking at something. And every second you don't hurry up and buy, you can see them getting meaner and meaner. They want you to buy. I said, look at these people. And they ruined the festivals because they just start coming by the droves. So like 10 of them will come and they'll all have a booth. So they'll have 5 booths, one over there, one over there, but they really all together. And they would come in like in a big, like a criminal, almost trying to see how much money they could take out of the festival with no respect for the festival. They wouldn't fix their booths up to look nice. And they would just come and try to sell people African stuff. Tethers for sure. Come to the events, horrible attitude, all that. Tethers for sure. What else could you call somebody that come and leech off of a program like that? That was my first experience doing them concerts when them Africans came to LA right before I left. And they would come with a big old garbage bag full of reggae t-shirts, Bob Marley and stuff. They'd be all wrinkled up. And they'll just take them and they'll lay them out and try to sell them. I had real good, nice Bob Marley t-shirts. They came and just degraded the whole culture. Ran it into the ground. I wish I could show you what that was like. It was horrible. So that's when I first realized, oh, these Africans ain't no good. And ain't nothing changed with a lot of them. I ain't gonna stereotype all of them, but the ones that's in business, I can't deal with that. They're not around for nothing but money. I ain't kidding. Real vampires come to anything and just they start flooding all the events, all of them. Every last one of them. Don't care nothing about the people, not nowhere around the people, don't live nowhere around there, and just pull up and try to take people money and leave. I ain't kidding. It was horrible. Horrible. The Jamaicans got so out of line, they got all deported. So instead of the reggae club where you had some Rastas and someone was trying to look like Rastas or start growing dreads so they could play music so they can make some money, to it went from that to a festival where ain't nobody there real at all. Yeah. And wasn't nobody there real at all. Just there for the money. Don't bring no, and so the festival, the vibe, it went down because when you got these people in these booths and they're not friendly, they're not hospitable, you ruin the stock. So the stock that we were selling, the Pan African, the African stock and stuff, they ruined that. Nobody hardly buy that stuff now because the Africans, I don't know what to say. And it's a fact. So that's when you start seeing it now. They never really be around us like that. They use a phone or radio to do whatever they're going to do. So now we at the point where, we had got to a point when you look up, and the reason we say tether, because it got to a point when we look up, all these politicians ain't none of them foundational Black Americans. You got Eric Holder, he's running the FBI or something. He wasn't no foundational Black American. Barack Obama wasn't no foundational Black American. A whole bunch of them start coming in taking jobs from us, but not really representing us. Actually uncomfortable around us. I ain't kidding. So that's what Tyreek be talking about when he talk about tether. He's talking about people that come here, Blacks that come here, and they try to look like us. Yeah, cosplaying. Yeah, they try to look like us, act like us. They become governors, senators, presidents, all this stuff, and they don't give a damn about us. Not really. They just be exploiting us. It's the craziest thing ever. And so when we be talking tethers, it's real because there's people that's pretending they us, but ain't us. And don't look at us as brothers and sisters, look at us as customers. I kid you not. And that's the tether. When you come, you try to talk like a Black American, look like a Black American, run for office, and get in there, and then take money, a lot of it. Embezzling, all type of stuff going on constantly. How your son get that car? Oh, okay. That's what was going on with that. And people came in and infiltrated. So when we be saying tethers, there really are tethers out here. There's people that connect like they us, but they just want the money. And they don't even like us. I had to be so mean in the 90s. I had to be real gangster with the Jamaicans and the Africans and Trinidad and anybody else. I had to really be on dummy. You can't make this up. I had to be 100% gangster dealing with them because they was not really respecting us. None. There was no respect. None. No respect. They'll sleep with your women. They don't want to talk to you. They don't want to see you. They don't want nothing from you. And when I say nothing, I mean nothing but your money. I kid you not. Nothing but your money. No brotherly, nothing there. Like I said, a friend of mine, she had already moved to Kenya. They called her for Ringy. She had to leave. She had to come back because she couldn't deal with the hate. It kind of broke her heart because she thought she was really moving up, going to Africa. I ain't kidding. So when Tyreek was saying tethers, I knew exactly what he was talking about because people were just connecting. And it was bad in the 90s going to Jamaica. Man, listen, you might not come out of there alive. I'm going to tell you, you got all these people emulating us, and we don't get nothing, and they ain't going to do nothing. They ain't trying to do nothing. And then they try to make it like it's us, but they be trolling us and stuff. That's a fact. I've seen it firsthand. Now they having grandchildren. They all gang members. They got all these funny acting name gangs and all type of stuff. None of it is traditional. None of it is about respect. They ain't gonna keep your car clean. They ain't gonna keep your house clean. They ain't gonna do nothing. If you live with them or you dealing with them, they not gonna do nothing but exploit you. I'm gonna tell you straight up. When they sell you stuff, they just selling it. They just want your money. In some cases, they don't even try to have a nice booth or have nothing nice. They just want to come to the event and think they can sell African junk. I'm telling you, they messed up the whole festival scene. Africans destroyed it. Ask somebody and see what they say. Now they're trying to cling to us politically, trying to look like us, trying to be like us, trying to come in and take that money. I'm telling you, they real. They are absolutely real with the tetherment. But you might gotta, distance yourself as much as you can so you don't get in no trouble. If they keep on being politics, you won't get nothing. Look up there in Minnesota. They sent all that money back to Iraq. I mean, back to Mogadishu. They sent all that money back home. That's a fact. All that money. So tethers are definitely real. I just didn't jump into the foolishness. But the black woman been catching hell at them African beauty shops forever. Well, them women is just mean. I told the queen one time, I'm not paying for it if you go to let them Africans do your hair. I'm not paying. I'm not going to pay for you to go let somebody disrespect you. I had to keep going up to these beauty shops, checking these Africans. And then she'd go right back to them. And they, what is wrong with you? Don't you see they don't respect you? I'm telling you. I'm telling you. And when my friend went to Africa, they treat her like dirt. They ain't gonna treat you no good over there. I watched lots of videos where expats went to Africa. They're having the worst experience ever. They got to come back, and a lot of FBA is passing away suspiciously in Africa too. She told you don't go walking down there. Yeah, it's a whole bunch of there's a whole bunch of trying to vampire on us right now for sure. I know when Jamaica just had that hurricane, they was talking greasy to black Americans. I don't know what happened, but it was some kind of beef. They just going giving them people their money for nothing. I had a friend, she went to Jamaica and got a visa, and they come, they go to bed, and they hear something, and the damn Jamaicans were trying to climb through the roof into their bedroom. Real talk. I ain't kidding you. It's bad, and it's just like that. These different brothers and sisters running for office, we're gonna have to start checking people file. We ain't gonna be able to vote for you if you ain't FBA. We ain't gonna be able to vote for you because we can't trust you. It ain't that we hating or nothing. It's just we ain't having no good experience. You know what I'm saying? We ain't had no good experience. The only one gonna take care of you is you. You can't expect another group of people to take care of you. And so people be saying tether, but a tether is specifically somebody that attached themselves to you, attached themselves to your culture, but only to exploit it. That's what they do. They attach themselves to exploit it. That's what they do. They attach themselves to you. They go run for office. Yeah, they run for office, and they try to act as black American as possible. I'm telling you, they go run for office, but they're doing it just to exploit. Look what happened up there in Minnesota, Minneapolis. They sent all that money back home and basically robbed the place blind. So that's what a tether is. I just want to make that clear. Tether somebody connect themselves to you, but really don't mean you no good. They don't. They just connect themselves to your culture and exploit your culture. If I'm lying, I'm flying. I seen it firsthand with a lot of people. Wasn't the entire black civil rights movement about wanting? No. How old are you? How old are you? What is civil rights? Do you know what civil rights is? You don't even know what civil rights is. You don't even know what civil rights is. No, that wasn't civil rights. Yeah, you trolling. You don't know what civil rights is. Go back and study. You don't know what civil rights is. You don't know what you're talking about. You must be a tether because you don't know what civil rights is. Don't type nothing else. What is civil rights? If you speak on civil rights, give us the definition of civil rights. What is the definition of civil rights? Where you from? Puerto Rico? Oh, it's tore up down there. Ain't nothing in Puerto Rico. You the main one running around looking for somewhere to go. Oh yeah, you don't know what it is. All right, you don't know what civil rights is. You definitely probably a tether. You don't even know what civil rights is. Yeah, and he from some bum country. Puerto Rico ain't got no lights on or nothing. Trump getting ready to take over Puerto Rico, Cuba, them places ain't nothing. Puerto Ricans ain't doing nothing. Puerto Ricans is the number of some of the biggest tethers. The Puerto Ricans, he don't even know what civil rights is. He said civil rights is one of white school or something crazy. What the hell is he talking about? He don't even know what civil. He don't even know what civil means, like civilian. He don't know that civilian rights. He said a white school. He too stupid to know that that's tax dollars. Listen, he said a white school. A school is paid for by tax dollars. He think a public school is a private school. He don't know that a public school that black people pay for the public school. That is not a white school. A public school is not a white school. Crazy as hell. He ain't doing no good job trolling because he's stupid. In order to troll, you gotta show some type of intelligence. He don't. He just was typing anything. uh, he make himself look stupid. He's not getting. If you're uneducated, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, I already talked about that. There was no such thing as integration. Integration never existed. He think integration is me going downtown and want to go in a restaurant and get something to eat. He think that's integration. He said I should have my own restaurant downtown, but he'll get on American airline. Why don't he got his own airline? Listen, he said don't use their stuff, and he on YouTube. Listen, man, he said build your own stuff. He said that on YouTube. Why don't he build his own YouTube? He ain't built his phone he on or his computer. He ain't got no control over his electricity. And he said, build your own on YouTube. He said he got on YouTube and say, don't use nobody else stuff on YouTube. You know, he owns somebody else stuff talking about don't use nobody else stuff. Boy, if you don't shut up, I can't. That's why I just look. I don't even know what to say. I ain't even know what to say. He said, get your own stuff on YouTube. He ain't right. He crazy as hell. Because he a tether. He done tethered to our conversation. Yeah, he tried to do everything just like us. That man's slow. That man's super slow. I'm talking about super duper slow. I can't. But once you that slow, I can't. I've seen some slow people before. He's slow as hell. And we built the whole country. It's what be people. People tell us to build our own stuff, and the whole country was built off of free labor, off our money. Some whites believe that too, but we built the whole country. Imagine an invader of the Native Americans told somebody to go home. You first. You can't make this stuff up. Crazy as hell. He ain't, man. This how slow he is. He like a turtle riding on a snail. I don't want to talk to his slow ass. That's him. He's a turtle. He trying to hurry up and get some up. It took him forever to get on. It took him forever to get on the snail. And he talking about he in a hurry. Boy is slow as hell. That boy got on YouTube and say, get your own. I said, boy, you cannot make this up. How you get on YouTube to about get your own? Boy, I'm telling you. You cannot make this food stuff up. So that's what Tether is all about, though. I just want everybody to know. Tether is people that's attaching themselves to us. Attaching themselves to us for their own betterment. They really don't mean us no good. They want to go get in a black caucus. They want to run for all these public offices, but they not going to do nothing for foundational black Americans. Nothing. They ain't going to do nothing for us. Not a thing. They running for all these offices and stuff, and they really just trying to have a takeover. They ain't trying to help us like that. We have to really run the background check on all these people before we vote for them. That's for sure, because we got so many leeches and parasites taking jobs away from us. It don't make no sense. You know what I'm saying? But don't y'all get y'all emotions on that. I just wanted to let y'all know what a tether was. You know what I'm saying? And Tariq is doing a great job straightening all that out. And just so you know what delineation is, listen to this.
Now, if you want smoke, I'm here for all of it. But we not about to play the gaslighting game. Just like we said, FBA is not an organization, FBA is also not a movement. There is a movement, though. The movement is called the Delineation Movement. FBA is the lineage, delineation is the movement.